You're listening to Building Bold Connections, a podcast where we explore the creative ways business leaders have solved professional challenges to gain success and build net worth from their network. On this week's episode, we're speaking with Jennifer Close, a distinguished alumna of Kennesaw State University and an exceptional marketing director at LexisNexis Risk Solutions. Welcome to episode 14 of Building Bold Connections.
Welcome to Building Bold Connections. I'm your host, Tyra Burton, and today I'm here with Jennifer Close. She's the Director of Marketing at LexisNexis Risk Solutions. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
So how do you like the KSU campus? It's been a while.
It has been a while. It has grown. It's beautiful.
It definitely has grown. It's changed a little.
It has changed a lot, but it's great to be back.
So when you were first looking into KSU a couple of years ago, shall we say, why did you choose to be an owl?
Yeah. It was interesting looking at different colleges. There's so many of the large traditional campuses in and around the state, and they just didn't really appeal to me. They felt too big. They felt too disconnected. And there was something about Kennesaw that felt very intimate and community-minded that I really enjoyed. Additionally, at the time, I really wanted something that had an environment that fostered working and that work and education balance. And I really felt like Kennesaw did that for me.
And I think we still have that going on. So you ended up choosing marketing as a major. So how did you land over in my world?
In marketing. So when I was coming into Kennesaw, I had a heavy retail background and was really interested in retail advertising and retail merchandising. And the whole concept of understanding the consumer and the buyer and how that informed ad creative was something that I was really interested in understanding further. And so that's kind of what got me into marketing. And it's kind of driven my career, though in a very different way.
I was about to say, did you end up in retail?
No.
So where did you end up?
B2B marketing, the complete opposite of retail and consumer. So everything I've worked on is very tech heavy, complicated, complex, long sales cycle.
Definitely long sale.
Yeah, nothing is easy.
So when you're thinking about the B2B world, what's something you wish people understood about it?
It is very much about human connection. I think that so many people look at B2B as a technology sale or a technical sale, and it becomes very much about features and facts. But at the end of the day, we are still solving problems for our customers. You know, they are in the trenches of these large organizations facing really hard problems. And, you know, it's our job to connect with them and understand those problems and deliver a solution for them and be able to tell those stories in the same way that consumer marketing does.
I think storytelling is at the center of marketing.
It is 1,000%.
So how did you end up going from retail to B2B?
Completely by accident. There's a lot about my career that has been accidental opportunities. And so when I was here at Kennesaw and involved in the Kennesaw Marketing Association, volunteered with the American Marketing Association for their Amy Awards, which is actually coming up
very soon
as we speak. Volunteered, and I met the CEO of a local agency. And, you know, she made the mistake of looking at me and saying, "I hear you have a job with us one day," which you don't tell me that because then I pursue it. And, you know, it happened to be a B2B agency, and that was it. That was the end. And from there, my career was built.
So you were actually the president of KMA, our Kennesaw Marketing Association. How did being a part of a student group really help your career?
Oh my God, it made all the difference. I attribute every aspect of the start of my career to my participation in KMA. It was one of those things where as a professional now, I look back and I look at college students as an opportunity in the fact that as a college student, people are so willing to say yes to you. You know, they want to help you. They want to mentor you. They want to open doors for you. And when they see that you're involved in professional organizations or student-run organizations, they see that extra effort that you're putting in. And so I just think that has really been the thing that opened that door and launched my career. And now I look at college students the exact same way.
As a place to go to really help somebody out and mentor them.
Yeah.
So you ended up at an agency to start off with. So you interned there, correct?
I did. I started off as an intern, and then 2 months later, I was full-time.
That was rather quick.
It was very quick.
So I know you've gone and worked at both agency and in industry corporations. What do you think is the biggest difference between the two?
Oh, my goodness. I think that there is a difference of breadth and depth. When I look back at my career, I will always be thankful that I started an agency because I got a breadth of experience that I never would have gotten had I started in a corporate environment. Within corporate, you're focused either on a singular function within marketing or you're focused on a single industry, a single product. Whereas during my time at the agency, I did a calculation and it was almost 200 different companies that I worked with across 5 different industries, across untold numbers of sizes from startup, like literally back of the napkin startups, all the way to $3 billion private owned and publicly traded companies. And so I got to see such a diversity of how companies are run, how they're built, how that changes their marketing, but then what the commonalities are. Are there common models that exist from one type of organization into the next? So, I think the biggest difference was just the breadth of exposure, but I think that's made me a more successful corporate marketer because I'm able to draw on that experience.
So when you made the transition to corporate, you really built upon the skills that you had in an agency. How is it different now?
I think what's different now is because of my agency experience and because of the role that I'm in right now, there's a lot that I'm able to pull in as a value add and as a differentiator for myself within the organization. Being in an agency, the requirement is that you have to be an unbiased third party. It's your job to advocate for the end user, for the customer, for the work. And you don't get quite as mired in the realities of the organization itself. Whereas being within the organization, you're navigating a lot more of the internal dynamics of what the corporate priorities are. And sometimes that can compete with the ultimate needs of how you need to market for a customer. And so because I've had so much experience being able to talk about and present work in a more objective manner and in an unbiased manner, it's allowed me to be a lot more successful and drive thoughts and ideas across the board that probably would not have made it otherwise.
So as the director of marketing at LexisNexis Risk Solutions, what is your job now? What do you actually do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I'm actually one of 3 directors. So I oversee our credit risk and data quality solutions. So everything that I look at has to do with enabling access to credit for consumers from an alternative data lens. And so what I do every single day is, really focus more on sales enablement. We are a sales-driven organization. A lot of our opportunities and conversations come through our salespeople having direct conversations with the customer. And so it's about developing thought leadership, doing research, fielding studies, and developing really compelling content that they can then share with their customers. The vast majority of what I do is really enabling that one-to-one relationship with a little bit of more of the kind of broader industry engagement.
And again, telling the story. Using that data that you have. So do you see some of the principles that you learned at Coles College in your life as a postgraduate, in your work life?
I think the foundations of marketing will always come up. I think what's really interesting is the way that they come to light in every organization is very different, so I always laugh when I think about the 4 Ps of marketing.
The cornerstones.
Just because I have yet to see it where it's wholly living within marketing, right? It's such a cross-functional reality. And so, there's some instances, some organizations that I've worked with where the product and pricing lived with engineering, and then the promotion was non-existent because they were a sales-driven organization, and the distribution was through alliance and channel partners, and so it tends to be very dispersed. One thing I'm really enjoying about my current role is that we have a role called market planning. And so they're really kind of the glue. They're the strategy team that brings together the product team. They develop pricing. We're highly integrated with them from a promotional perspective. And it really allows marketing to be more strategic and to be a part of more of the other P's that I think marketing has lost a little bit over the years. So that's just been a fun thing to look at and to watch and to reflect on.
Oh, it's definitely the cornerstones that we teach that in target marketing, which is, I think, tremendously important.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up target marketing because, the idea of buyer personas and segmentation and understanding the customer journey, I think has just been evolving so much over the last several years. And it's something that that there's such an opportunity for marketers to be educators within their own organizations around the importance of understanding the buyer's journey. So this is something that I'm doing a lot of active work in right now where we're talking about, okay, well, we have a net new customer coming into the organization. What's the first product that they're adopting? What are they growing into from there? What's the third? What's the fourth? And understanding the process that they're going through and the way that they identify their own needs and challenges and how we can better align our stream of communications to them to mirror and match that kind of self-defined journey.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's B2C or B2B.
Correct.
So I know that you've had some passion projects connected to volunteering. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about why volunteering is important to you?
Oh gosh, I love volunteering. I don't think I would be able to do my day job without also volunteering. It just is like the thing that lights your soul on fire and makes you feel good. It's an opportunity to use your skills that you've developed over the years to give back for a greater good, which has been so much fun. And it has really, I think volunteering has opened up places that pushed me to do things I didn't know I would be able to do.
Okay, because I want to hear what it pushed you to do. You walked into that one.
Sorry. So, I think about the biggest one was my participation with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And through my participation with the American Marketing Association, I had a friend who was a past candidate, and he nominated me to be a Woman of the Year candidate. And I had never fundraised a day in my life. Did not know anything about it. It's a intensive 10-week campaign where you just raise as much money as you can for cancer research. And I didn't know anything about leukemia or lymphoma, didn't know anybody who had had it. But a lot of people in my family have had cancer, and their therapies have gone on to be treatments for other types of cancers. And so, their mission and their reach was broader. And so I felt at least a personal tie to their mission. And, having never fundraised and being a little bit of a people pleaser at the time, asking people for money was really hard.
It is. I think it's one of the hardest things.
It was. And it's like there's a lot about your marketing background that you can leverage in terms of storytelling and, targeting and communicating and frequency and all of that kind of stuff. But there's almost more of a sales component that I had to tap into of like not being afraid to make the ask. And are there more creative ways to get to this essentially a revenue goal, in a more indirect fashion? And so that ended up being like the most rewarding thing I've ever done, but also super terrifying.
It's good to push ourselves.
It is.
So I think it's interesting that the American Marketing Association, which you started when you were in KMA, connects you to that as well.
Yeah. I mean, AMA continues to pop up in my life every day. It's the funniest thing and that's where I truly believe in that phrase of don't burn a bridge, because there's been so many of my connections that I've made over the years that have just kind of come in and out of my life in various factors. And it's for new opportunities. It's to open doors for other people. It's taken on so many life forms, but AMA has been very much a driving force.
So I would say that if we're talking to a student today, what is something that you would encourage them to do while they're in college?
Join a student organization.
Change your world.
Unequivocally, yeah.
So if you had to go back, what would you do differently?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that I would work a little less and enjoy the college experience more.
You worked really hard, I remember.
I think would probably be it. And dedicate more time to participating in like student organizations and getting involved in the professional organizations earlier.
So I know that originally you also competed as a figure skater.
Oh, gosh.
And I was wondering, how did that experience as an athlete, how does it continue to influence you personally and professionally today?
Oh, work ethic, self-discipline. Absolutely. And then I would say accountability. As a figure skater, when I did that, you were the only one out there and there was no one else that could take responsibility for your performance. And I think the same is true in your career. You have to be the one that is setting your goals and setting your ambitions and going after what you want. And no one else is going to show up and try to push you towards that, especially if you don't ask for help. And so, I think just like the overall approach and methodology that I have around building my career, but then also the way that I show up as a leader is heavily influenced by that and by the coaches that I had. So I have much more of a coaching mentor style as a leader than kind of more of a manager style as a result of figure skating.
So that's looking at it from the student's perspective, coming in, interviewing for a job. What do you look for in a new hire?
I look for someone who has some sense of the trajectory that they want to take their career. I look for someone who asks really intelligent questions. I think someone who comes into an interview and asks questions about, not just the culture of the organization or the role itself, but understanding, maybe what the growth path can be or how it ties into some of their own personal values, or just being direct and being like, hey, one of my favorite interview questions is there anything that is stopping you from hiring me today? Right? Because it forces on the spot for them to say, well, yes or no, and it kind of pushes that question. So I really love intelligent, well thought out questions. And then someone who really wants to take ownership. I look at my team and, I had someone start at the end of last year, and every time I ask her, I'm like, hey, do you need some help on this? She's like, no, I'm going to take a pass. I'll come to you. And it's that sense of accountability and desire to just give it a shot and not be afraid of the feedback that I love so much in people.
Well, and it also speaks to you as a manager, because that means they feel comfortable taking that risk.
Yeah.
So you're taking a risk right now. You've got some life changes happening.
Yes.
So you're about ready to be a mom of 4.
Yes.
What are the challenges that you're having to overcome as a working mom? Because you're already a working mom of 3, and now you're going to add another little bundle of joy. How does that impact what you do with your career?
Oh gosh, honestly, the impact that being a mom has had on my career is unreal. I never would have estimated it. When I look back at the 20s version of me, it was, I'm going to be a CEO by the time I'm 35. I'm going to be on the 40 under 40 list. I'm going to have, all these accolades and all of that kind of stuff. And then, over the course of having kids, priorities shifted and priorities changed. And then I kind of realized that, that's not necessarily what success looks like. Success is self-defined. Based on what you want it to be. And the same goes for that whole concept of work-life balance. That was a really hard lesson for me to learn through the process of being a working mom, where it's all about perspective. You will never have perfect balance. It's what is your priority in that moment, and how do you balance that out over the long term based on, what you feel is most important for you to focus on.
So how would you define success today? And how is that different from, well, obviously before it was accolades. How do you define it today?
Now it's the ability to work on things that excite me. It has more to do with the type of work that I'm doing than the title or the outcomes, from a compensation perspective. I find that, when I have something to look forward to, or I'm working on work that is particularly in line with my values and what I find particularly thrilling, then I just feel more fulfilled. And so for me, that's all it needs to be, because then I know that I can show up as a better mom because I'm happier at work. And when I'm happier at work, I can be happier at home.
I think being that whole sense of joy, it makes a difference in that work-life balance.
Yeah.
So what is your new thing that's getting you excited?
So my current passions really center around business transformation and change. And so looking at, the broader picture of an organization and how you can foster meaningful transformation, whether that be through processes, org design, brand design. It can be any number of ways that comes about, but it's how do we structure, position, and define ourselves in a way that enables other people for success. So does it make it easier for our sales team to articulate our value? Does it make it a better customer experience for onboarding? What are some of these big problems or challenges or hiccups that we can solve, and what is the change that we need to make in order to do so. So it's kind of figuring out those change mechanisms is really fun for me right now.
So when you're looking at those processes, you're really trying to figure out what are the steps that people go through?
A little bit about what steps people go through, and then what is the redefined vision. So it's okay, well, we really want to have a more optimized marketing team. What does that look like? How are we structured? What are the ways that we need to function and interact with one another? Or, maybe there's a challenge in a workflow process. Okay, well, what's causing the problem? What's the root cause? And then how do we rebuild the process around it in order to smooth it out, get rid of the issue, and be more efficient.
So as you've moved along in your career, you've obviously moved up into looking at that at a more of a big picture level than a small picture level.
Yes, exactly.
So looking at the horizon, where do you see Jennifer 5 years from now?
Oh my gosh. Still only a mom of 4. I don't know yet. I'm being very open to opportunity right now. I'm kind of in a exploration phase, I think. I'm really happy with where I've landed currently with my career. And, there's just so much opportunity that sits right in front of me that it's kind of that whole elephant, how do I ingest all of this and take it one step at a time? And so, it's really just kind of figuring out how I can define a unique space for myself within the organization and I unearth and advocate for a need that I can fulfill.
Okay, so we're going to close up asking you, what would you, if you had Jennifer starting KSU, besides getting involved in student organizations, what are some of the top tips you would give to students as they're starting?
Oh my goodness. I would say get off campus and get involved. Number one. Networking. I feel like it's something that is so pounded in, and yet I feel like it can't be done enough. So really building those connections early on, defining a path for mentorship. So, one thing that I think I learned too late was not too late, but later than I should have, was the difference between a mentor, a sponsor, and an advisor.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about how you see those differently.
Yeah. So from an advisor standpoint, that can be really anyone, right? They don't have to know you intimately, but they can at least advise or give counsel to a particular problem or question that you're having. They have general situational awareness versus a mentor being someone who knows you really well. They've known your journey. They've known your history. They see the good and the bad, and they can kind of help guide you in a more intimate way based on where you're trying to go. And then the thing that's become really important in my career most recently is the sponsors, which is they see the really good in you, and they see the really good. You don't let them see the bad. They see the really good. And they're the ones that are in the rooms that you're not in. And they can speak on your behalf for opportunity, and they can speak on your behalf for new roles and open doors. And so they're the ones who are really going to kind of create some of those easier pathways towards upward momentum.
Well, and those opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great way to look at it. And hopefully our students and anybody out there in career will start thinking about advisors, sponsors, and mentors. Yes. Well, we thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome back to KSU.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Building Bold Connections. This has been a Coles College and Joel A. Katz Music and Entertainment Business Program production.